Chapter 100 Steps Divine Fist. Even with the bonus of the zombie's undead power, Yuan Hao's ability is limited. And with the continued battle with Eclipse Shinichiro, who can continuously improve his combat power, there is no suspense about the outcome of this battle. Xia Lingling's body was beaten to pieces, and after it was assembled with difficulty, it was smashed again. And Zhou Feiyu also died in the mouth of the big snake. At this time, Deng Shintong, who was still in the back, finally couldn't stand it anymore. It's almost over. They are not on the same level as the people of Eclipse Moon. If they continue to fight, they will just die in vain. It's time for us to act. Zhu Zheng received Deng Shintong's application for battle, but he was still a little hesitant. But only 5 members of Eclipse Moon have shown up. There are still 8 people in the dark. It seems that they also know our plan and have second-hand preparations. Deng Shintong smiled slightly, but we can't expect to have 100% control of all intelligence in every battle. Such a mission is too boring. Zhu Zheng looked at the big screen and saw that the western and northern fronts were almost collapsed. If the Tianqian team is not allowed to take action, everyone on the field will die. So he nodded. Okay, you are allowed to fight. Deng Shintong showed a confident smile at the corner of his mouth, and he glanced at his team members. It's our turn to play. This time, complete the task beautifully. Akutsu walked in front of Yuan Hao and pointed the bloody baseball bat in his hand at his head. Hey, let me kill you too. Then go down and reunite with your woman. In another direction, Yu Zhengyang and Zhou Feiyu were defeated by the snake Shingu and Ei Dao in a 2-on-1 situation. They were both killed and swallowed by it. Akutsu raised the metal bat in his hand high and dropped it hard. But suddenly, he felt his arms soften, and the strength in his body seemed to be drained from his body.
Dang.
The metal bat fell on the charred land. He lowered his head and looked at his chest. Very abruptly, a deep dent appeared in his chest.
Wow.
A large mouthful of blood gushed out of his mouth, and then a sharp pain came from his chest. It was as if a big hand dug into his chest and then squeezed his lungs hard and crushed them. Shungu and Ei Dao restored his human appearance, and Akutsu's change made his pupils shrink. He understood that the real special forces of the Jiangnan district had appeared. Those people were their biggest threat. Kamaya Negemichi turned his head and looked into the fog in the distance, but before he could prepare for defense, he felt an unbearable pain in his lower abdomen. It was as if his internal organs were put in a washing machine and stirred crazily, and then there were many steel nails inside.
Wow.
He lost all his strength at once and fell to his knees, spitting blood. In the depths of the fog, a tall and strong figure slowly walked out. It was a man with a beard. What a great ability. Unfortunately, if you meet me, you will only be slaughtered, he said very calmly. One of the 2 vice-captains of the God Squad, the Divine Fist Liao Honglei, appeared. With just one blow, he crippled Kamaya Negemichi and Akutsu Shinichiro. Although the 2 had experienced a big battle before, his amazing strength can still be seen. Unlike the western battlefield, only Liao Honglei came to the northern battlefield. Not all the people of Eclipse Moon showed up, and it was impossible for all the God Squad to go out. According to the algorithm of the Combat Command Center, Liao Honglei's ability is the most suitable for dealing with Kamaya Nagai Dao and Akutsu Shinichiro. Because his ability is a very rare space system, combined with his own powerful Bajiquan, it has derived an extremely deadly killing method, the 100-step Divine Fist. Within 100 steps, his attack can ignore all physical defenses and even penetrate heavy armor and skin, and directly attack the internal organs. It can be said that he is a melee killer of aliens. Liao Honglei didn't say much nonsense. He didn't even look at Yuan Hao, who was still alive. He stood firmly and punched the fallen Kamaya Nagai Dao. In the depths of the thick fog where Wei Ming was, a pair of cold brown eyes slowly opened. Sure enough, it appeared, the God Squad. Just as Liao Honglei's fist blasted out, there was a violent tumbling in the thick fog, and suddenly a huge 3-headed dog with flames all over its body jumped out, roaring and rushing towards him. This is a 3-meter tall and 5 or 6-meter long three-headed demon dog, with red flames all over its body, making the surrounding air dry. However, this flame had no effect on the mist created by yin-yang magic. Liao Honglei's pupils shrank. He did not expect that the other party actually had someone in the dark. It seems that no one is a fool, and they all know that they have to keep a backhand. Then, let's see who has a stronger backhand. Liao Honglei punched out, aiming at the torso of the three-headed demon dog. But the body of the three-headed demon dog just twisted strangely. Although the color became a little dim, it still rushed towards Liao Honglei. Seeing this scene, Zhu Zheng's expression became serious. It's a release-type ability user. Tu Yunlai frowned. This is a bit bad. No one thought that the other party still had this trick. And judging from the power of the three-headed demon dog, the person hiding in the dark is very powerful. They thought that it would be most appropriate to let Liao Honglei deal with the enemies on the northern route.
Who
would have thought that the other party would arrange a backhand as if they had guessed what they were doing? Kamaya Negemichi and Akutsu Shinichiro, who were knocked to the ground, covered their chests and abdomens. Although they were seriously injured and coughed up blood, they did not have the slightest fear, but laughed wildly. Akutsu said, "No wonder. My fortune today is a little lucky." Kamaya Negemichi said coldly, "But it will not affect the result." Liao Honglei nimbly dodged the attack of the three-headed demon dog. He saw the fog on the opposite side rolling, and several tall shadows slowly walked out. It was a middle-aged man in a suit, with a slicked-back hair and gold-rimmed glasses. Beside him followed a group of supernatural beasts that were obviously condensed from supernatural powers.
A
giant ape that was 4 meters tall and covered in gold. A fox with 6 tails and a silver-white body. A blue bird with a blurred figure surrounded by a whirlwind. And a gray crow floating on a shoulder. The true Onmyoji of OSU Canon Temple, Jinguji Saikairo, a cadre level of the Eclipse group. Jinguji Saikairo put his hands in his pockets and looked at Liao Honglei impatiently. Your ability seems to be specifically used to restrain close combat? So, what if you fight me? Chapter 657 Bait. When the battles in the western and northern battlefields were in full swing, Jang E seemed to be forgotten.
The calm was too terrifying.
Even the combat command center didn't know how to give them orders. After seeing the disastrous defeat of the aliens in the other 2 outer cities, Zhu Zheng had already determined that the members of the Eclipse group were as strong as the God team. If Zhang E was allowed to investigate in depth, it would be like asking him to die. Therefore, Zhu Zheng temporarily gave up the idea of letting Zhang E take action again. After all, the fire of these aliens in the outer city needs to be preserved. This excessive calmness made Zhang E more confused. He couldn't help but secretly speculate, what was the reason for the abnormal situation on his side? Could it be that the people of Eclipse were afraid of him? It should not be likely. Although his strength is very strong, he is only at the level of investigation captain. Judging from the opponent's strength, they must have a powerful alien of similar level. Could it be that they didn't detect me? Zhang E even had such a thought in his mind. Although this is a bit strange, excluding all impossibilities, the only remaining explanation is the greatest possibility. From time to time, his communication equipment received reports from the other 2 places. After learning that the aliens in the outer city of the 2 routes were destroyed, and more than half of them were killed, he knew that he could not continue to hide. The situation is worse than I imagined. Although I don't want to expose my strength, if this operation fails because of my avoidance of battle, it would be too much of a loss. Such a consequence is definitely not something anyone wants to see. With my ability, even if I encounter a strong opponent, it will be no problem to take Liang Yu and Hua Wei as soon as possible. After Zhang E figured this out, he decided to give up the plan of waiting and take the initiative to attack. However, he would not fight an unprepared battle. Thinking of Qin Xiaoxiao and Peng Li who left before, Zhang E couldn't help laughing. The 2 women had already entered the mist, so they were just there to help him explore the way. Zhang E put the big gun Li into the different space. He turned to look at the demon cat Hua and stroked its head. Hua Hua. Do you remember the smell of the two women just now? Can you find them? Hua Hua happily meowed. They were gone for a short time, and Hua Hua could find them by following their scent. Jang E smiled and nodded. That's good. Let's follow them. Liang Yu looked at Jang E curiously and asked, have you changed your mind? Jang E said lightly, the situation on the battlefield is changing rapidly. The enemy is changing, and I should change too. Liang Yu spread his hands. But why don't you contact them directly? Jang E said with a smile. The reason is simple, because they don't trust me at all. On the other side, the trio headed by Tsukamoto Nobunaga was also heading southeast. Since there was no mention of finding the enemy in the southeast direction in Mayumi Takeuchi's prophecy, Nanako Agatsuma's expression was a little solemn along the way. This is the first time I've encountered such a situation. I hope it's just a false alarm. Upon hearing this, Tsukamoto Nobunaga said leisurely, I don't think so. Huh? Nanako Agatsuma and Takizawa Takashi looked at Tsukamoto Nobunaga at the same time. Nobunaga's eyelids drooped, and he always looked like he hadn't woken up. But in his eyes, there was always a sharp light flashing like his famous sword, the great Prajna Chongwang. He said calmly, I have studied the ancient siege tactics of China, and usually they would adopt the method of surrounding three and letting one go. They deliberately left a flaw to give us a wrong guide, so that we can break out from here. In other words, the enemy's main force should be in this direction. After this, Nanako Agatsuma's face became solemn. We are the most dangerous, right? Nobunaga nodded. According to what is written in the military book, it is indeed true. But after hearing Nobunaga's words, Takizawa Takashi laughed. In that case, doesn't it mean that we have to kill a lot of people? He was not worried at all that he would be killed. Takizawa Takashi raised his neck confidently. Today, Takeuchi told me that my fortune is very good. Nobunaga glanced at him and said nothing. But Agatsuma and Nanako glanced at him with a look of regret. When can you become more mature? Don't always rely on Mayumi's divination, okay? Takizawa Takashi scratched his head. But we have always done this, haven't we? Takeuchi's divination has never made a mistake. Agatsuma Nanako, helplessly,
sighed.
That's true. At this moment, the gray crows above the three people's heads suddenly opened their eyes. In the minds of several people, the voice of 40-body field Satoru came. Nobunaga, Longza, and Agatsuma, the enemy has appeared in your direction. There are 2 people in total. Please be careful. They suddenly appeared nearby. I suspect they are special ability users in the Jiangnan district. Be careful.
As
soon as these words came out, the expressions of Nobunaga and the other 2 became serious. And Nobunaga's right hand was on the narrow handle of the great Prajna Chongwang. At this time, the 2 people who were still unaware of being discovered were cautiously moving step by step towards the depths of the fog. Who else could they be? Of course, it was the sisters Qin Xiaoxiao and Peng Li. Because they were disgusted with Jang E's passive sabotage, the 2 decided to act on their own and strive to earn the most points in this mission. At that time, they can not only get the reward of Blizzard City, but also take over the territory of Linhai City. This is extremely tempting for Qin Xiaoxiao and Peng Li, who are very motivated and eager to become strong women. Even so, the 2 of them were extremely careful as they moved forward. They had made a plan, and this time they were mainly responsible for reconnaissance and probing. Once they found the opponent's top master, they would flee without hesitation. After all, the 2 of them cooperated well, and with the help of their ability to escape was first-rate. Even without the help of that coward Jang E, they could have completed the task excellently. This is the Barbie girl. And it was in such a misunderstanding that the 2 sides finally met in the small Jiangning square. The moment they saw each other, everyone was a little nervous. Even Tsukamoto Nobunaga, a master of kendo and Nitin Ichirya Menkyo Kaden, reached out and grasped the hilt of the knife at the first time. Is this the member of the special forces of the Jiangnan district? Chapter 658. 2 Breaks. Mayumi Takeuchi was in a slightly bad mood today. One reason was that she felt a dangerous atmosphere in today's battle. But this was not the main reason. The main reason was that someone had escaped her divination and suddenly appeared around Jiangning Square. She didn't realize it until the other party was within 3 kilometers of them. This feeling was the first time she had awakened the ability of Takeuchi Picture Scroll. And it was precisely because she failed to predict the arrival of the enemy in the southeast in advance that today's battle plan had some subtle unpredictability. The encounter between Tsukamoto Nobunaga and the other two and Sha Sha and Peng Li was a little dramatic. The 3 members of the Eclipse group regarded them as members of the God team and did not dare to be careless. When Sha Sha and Peng Li saw that there were 3 members of the Eclipse group here, they panicked. Damn it! Why didn't they come out earlier or later? Why did they come out at this time? If they showed up earlier, at least Jang E, Liang Yu, and Hua would be around. 5 people against 3. They still have hope to delay for a while and wait for the support of the God team. But now there are only 2 of them. What can they do to fight the other side? Peng Li's heart was pounding, and she used the communication device to ask Sha Sha. What should we do? We can't win. Should we run away? No, calm down. Sha Sha decisively rejected her proposal. She looked at the other side, Nanako Agatsuma and Nobunaga Tsukamoto. Takashi Takizawa is a long-range alien who uses a super-electromagnetic cannon to attack. If they want to escape, they still have a chance. But Nanako Agatsuma's Kamaitachi is known for its speed. Tsukamoto Nobunaga is not much in the video recording. That's because he killed a team of aliens too quickly. With these 2 people, if they run away, it will only make the other side realize their weakness. In that case, there will be no chance to escape. Calm down. We have found their traces, which is already part of the mission. Sha Sha opened the communication channel as soon as possible. After thinking about it, she also opened Jang E's communication channel. This is Sha Sha and Peng Li. We found Eclipse Moon members in the southeast direction, a total of 3. The headquarters had already discovered the situation through the monitoring equipment when they encountered each other. Zhu Zheng's eyes moved over immediately. Have their people finally appeared again? This time, there are only 4 people who have not yet taken action. He knew that with the strength of Peng Li and Sha Sha, they would definitely not be able to defeat the other 3 people. So he also opened the communication channel with Jang E as soon as possible. Jang E, Sha Sha, and Peng Li have encountered Eclipse Moon's people. They can't hold on for too long. You have to go to support them immediately. And Jang E has received the news from Sha Sha. He raised his mouth slightly and said lightly, "Got it, I'm on the way." There are only 3 people on the other side, and Jang E has already estimated the strength of those 3 people. He, Liang Yu, and Hua are enough to deal with it. So this battle is 3v3. Oh, by the way, why not 5-3? Because Jang E doesn't think that Sha Sha and Peng Li can help much. Even if they can, he doesn't need these 2 to share the results of the battle. You know, the price that the headquarters gives to each Eclipse member is a very high points reward. Let's go. But we don't need to rush too much.
Jang E said lightly.
At least we have to let Sha Sha and Peng Li know how conceited they are and pay the price for their arrogance. As for whether they will die, what does that have to do with him, Jang E? They are not familiar with each other. And if they die, Jang E can still complete the mission of the southeast route, even beyond the expectations of the headquarters. Sha Sha and Peng Li stood in place, keeping alert, but did not dare to take the initiative to attack or escape. They were extremely nervous, and they only hoped that the nearest Jang E or the members of the God team could come to rescue them. However, the people of Eclipse noticed something unusual. Nobunaga's ears moved slightly, and he heard the rapid heartbeats of the 2 people. That was the heartbeat caused by excessive tension. If these 2 were really members of the special forces of the Jiangnan district headquarters, they would never react like this. Could it be a small fish? Seeing their vigilant appearance, Nobunaga became more determined in his thoughts. Just give it a try, and you'll know. Thinking of this, the man and the knife rushed out like lightning. The man was in the air, and with a clang sound, the great Prajna light passed through the air like a white streak. Sha Sha and Peng Li knew they were exposed, and shouted, "Be careful!" The two had been ready for fight, so their abilities were activated instantly. Two white lights appeared in Prung Lee's hands and connected to Chen Xiaoxiao's body. Her ability is Priest, which can enhance Chen Xiaoxiao's strength, speed, defense, defend, and quickly heal all her non-fatal injuries. Chen Xiaoxiao stood in front of her, and the ability of the strengthening system blessed her physique. Her two well-trained long legs kicked the ground, and a circle of blizzard spread from under her feet, quickly expanding in a circle towards the surrounding area. At the same time, the bottom of the white boots on her feet popped out a long blade with a clang. Facing Nobunaga's simple and extremely fast knife, she performed Brazilian war dance and blocked it with the blade of her right foot.
Ping!
The blades collided, and the huge force directly bounced Chen Xiaoxiao out. But she landed gracefully in midair, and then danced nimbly on the snow. Nobunaga stared at his feet, and the ground had been frozen into a huge ice rink by her. And she began to turn quickly along Nobunaga in her ice skates, looking for the right time to attack. Oh. Nobunaga just said this lightly. He did not try to catch Chen Xiaoxiao's trace, and even slowly closed his eyes in front of the two of them. A field with a radius of 50 meters and centered on him began to appear. This is one of his abilities, Tianyuan. With himself as the center, sitting in the center of the chessboard, within a radius of 50 meters, it is the range of his sword. Chen Xiaoxiao danced quickly on the ice. She was looking for Nobunaga's flaw. But in the process, she was surprised to find that Nobunaga, who was in a sword-drawing posture, did not have any flaws at all. In addition, there were Nanako Agatsuma and Takashi Takizawa next to her, which made Chen Xiaoxiao completely unable to concentrate. At the moment when she was confused, Nobunaga caught the hesitation of her movement. No one saw clearly how his right hand drew the sword. Only a white streak passed through the air. And where the blade passed, Chen Xiaoxiao's leaping body was broken. Her waist was neatly cut open, and even the cuts on the muscles and intestines were as smooth as a mirror. Because the knife was too fast, she didn't even have time to feel the pain. Chapter: The Disappearing Hexagram. Nobunaga's sword was too fast. He was a master of ii slash, and his sword could split bullets at such a speed. As a master of the Menkyo Kaiden sword, Nobunaga's sword could also reach this speed. After becoming an alien, no one knew how fast his sword was. But there was one thing that was recorded in Izumo, one of the two major organizations in Japan. Among the 13 members of Eclipse Moon, Nobunaga was ranked number 2 in terms of combat power. Chen Xiaoxiao's 2 halves flew out. This result made her pupils shrink suddenly. For the first time in her life, she felt so desperate and powerless. Peng Li was also scared, and her face turned pale. Fortunately, the 2 blessed rays in her hands were still connected to Chen Xiaoxiao. She shouted and hurriedly dragged Chen Xiaoxiao's body back. The 2 halves of the body were connected in midair by Peng Li using the power of the priest. Fortunately, Nobunaga's sword was too fast, and the incision was as neat as a mirror, so it was also very fast to splice them together. Sha Sha stood on the ground with a pale face and staggered. Just now, the blood in her body turned cold. The cut on her lower abdomen was still there, and a circular blood line slowly flowed down along the snow-white skin. It was like something that was barely spliced together, making people worry that if they moved a little, the upper half of the body would fall off. Peng Li said nervously, "Don't move anymore. Your injury is too serious. It will take time to heal you." But both of them knew that they didn't have time. Now it was a dead end.
What?
It turned out to be a small fish. Nobunaga put away his long sword with a dull look on his face. He was so disappointed. He originally thought that he would encounter elites this time. But who would have thought that they were so weak? They were not even worthy of him using his sword. "Hurry up and get rid of them," said Nanako Agatsuma. "Don't worry." Nobunaga raised his head and looked into the distance. Maybe the real opponent has just appeared. The mist rolled, and several figures slowly walked out. Yes, very sharp intuition. The leading man showed an evil smile on his face. He tilted his head and looked at Nobunaga Miyamoto, especially the samurai sword in his hand.
What arrow is it?
Are you still playing samurai games here? Peng Li and Sha Sha saw them, as if they saw a savior, and shouted excitedly, "You are finally here." The three people who came were members of the God Squad. The leading man also held a knife in his hand, but it was a very big knife, heavy like a black door panel. There was a mysterious spell tattooed on his face, which looked extremely weird and gave people a feeling of being unfathomable. At this time, Jang E and others also arrived here. Originally, Jang E wanted Sha Sha and Peng Li to lead out the Eclipse Moon, and then he would take action to solve it. But he didn't expect that this time the people from the God Squad arrived first. Xiao Tian, a member of the God team, glanced at Jang E and said in a cold tone, "You are wasting too much time, so the higher-ups ordered us to take over the battlefield. Just in time, you can take these two useless women away. Then leave here immediately. The next battle is no longer something that a person of your level can intervene in." Liang Yu didn't say anything after hearing this, but just glanced at Jang E. The corners of Jang E's mouth curled up slightly. He spread his hands. "Since the professionals are here, there is no need for us to stay here. Retreat." After saying that, he looked at Sha Sha and Peng Li, and his eyes naturally fell on the terrible wound on Sha Sha's waist. "Can you still walk?" Sha Sha had been holding on just now. After all, she was cut in half, and it would take a long time to recover. She pursed her lips and was a little embarrassed to look at Jang E. At this moment, she regretted her blind decision. Jang E's caution was justified. They all underestimated Eclipse's strength. Jang E winked at Hua, and Hua came to Sha Sha and gently lay down. Peng Li quickly helped Sha Sha onto Hua's back, and her hands never stopped healing Sha Sha's wounds. Jang E didn't stay here to delay the gods' fight, and immediately took his men away. After walking for a long time, he heard Sha Sha's weak voice. "Jang E, thank you." Jang E glanced at her. "No need to thank me. It was just a convenience." Sha Sha's face was a little red, partly because of internal injuries and partly because of shame. Peng Li sighed with a sense of loss. "We came here to carry out this mission, and originally thought that we could make some contributions, but who would have thought that it would become a joke?" The huge gap in strength made them realize the reality. But they couldn't be blamed for all this, after all. It was their first time to fight against Eclipse. Back then, he was rampant in his own city. Wuji, the experience of being invincible, made them overestimate their own strength. However, Liang Yu leaned close to Jang E's ear and whispered, "Why didn't you take action just now? With your strength, it shouldn't be a big problem to deal with the three of them." Jang E looked at her and asked, "Do you know what the other party's strength is?" Liang Yu was stunned for a moment, then said, "No matter how strong they can't be stronger than you, right? You are the one who can even kill Yuan Kongya." Jang E said, "That's because I planned for a long time in advance, collected a huge amount of intelligence, and drove many people to be my pawns, and finally won with difficulty. Remember, never underestimate any opponent. Don't judge your opponent based on instinct, and fight with others blindly and confidently. The purpose of our coming here is out of the only remaining morality in our hearts. It's not to show off or get any mission points. Now that the God Squad has taken action, let them fight to the death." Liang Yu looked at Jang E's resolute and lazy profile and couldn't help laughing. "I really can't see through you anymore." Jang E said, "You don't need to see through, just follow me in action." When they left, Nobunaga and the other two didn't care at all. In their opinion, these people were just minions, and the members of the God team in front of them were the real opponents. But at this moment, the voice of 40 Minoza Go came into the minds of Nobunaga and the other two. "Nobunaga, Ryu's my wife. Are you three okay?" "Please replies." Nobunaga and the other two looked at each other and felt puzzled. Because 40 Minoza Go's voice was very anxious, as if something big had happened. Nobunaga responded, "We are fine." "What happened?" After getting Nobunaga's response, 40 Minoza Go breathed a sigh of relief. "Mayumi Takeuchi." He looked at Mayumi Takeuchi, who was holding her head with her hands not far away, with a look of confusion and fear on her face, and slowly said to the three people, "Just now, the three of you disappeared in Mayumi's divination. Chapter 660. Pursuit. Mayumi Takeuchi, the shrine maiden of the Eclipse group and the 37th generation descendant of the Takeuchi family, was in deep self-doubt at this moment. Because her most proud ability, the Takeuchi Amaki, had just lost its effect. It was as if something had forcibly erased her ability to predict. Therefore, Jin Huin immediately asked Shijimanobu Satoru and Nobunaga to contact each other. Shijimanobu Satoru conveyed to Huin that they were safe. "No, there must be something covering my eyes in that place," said Mayumi Takeuchi. "It makes me unable to see clearly, really unable to see clearly." Huin restrained the smile on her lips. The biggest trump card of the Eclipse group was not Jin Huin, nor was it Okokai Jin or Jinguji Saikairo and Tsukamoto Nobunaga, but the shrine maiden Mayumi Takeuchi, who had the ability to predict and could help them avoid danger. Once there was a problem with her ability, the entire Eclipse group would be unable to move an inch on the land of China. Feng Guangyuan had an idea and walked over to Shishimanoji Satoru and said, "Ask them what happened there just now." Shishimanoji Satoru conveyed Feng Guangyuan's question truthfully. At this time, Nobunaga and his three companions were confronting the three members of the Tenjin team. But Nobunaga still calmly told Shishimanoji Satoru what had just happened through Spirit Heart Demon. From the first encounter with Qin Xiaoxiao and Peng Li to what happened now. A cold light flashed in Feng Guangyuan's eyes. The moment you disappeared from Mayumi's vision was during the short time when those people appeared. So, the problem lies with them. Especially the two people who came later and the strange beast. We must find them and kill them. Feng Guangyuan understood that those people were the gaps in Mayumi Takeuchi's ability. Once the other party realized this, they would be in danger. Nobunaga said His lifeless eyes did not leave the three people in front of him for a moment, and he whispered to Takashi Takizawa and Nanako Agatsuma behind him. "I'll leave the three of them to me. You go, and kill the guys who escaped. Be sure to bring their heads back and show them to the team leader." Takashi Takizawa and Nanako Agatsuma also understood the importance of the matter. "Well, I'll leave it to you here. Don't die." After Takashi Takizawa finished speaking, he called Nanako Agatsuma to leave together. A whirlwind swirled around Nanako Agatsuma, and the ability of Kamaitashi began to activate. She dragged Takashi Takizawa's arm, soared into the air, and chased in the direction where Jang E and the others left. This scene directly annoyed Xiao Tianyi and the other two in front of him. Chasing and killing the aliens from the outer city in front of them, wouldn't it mean that they were not taken seriously at all? But just when they were about to intercept, a sharp knife light passed between them and Takashi Takizawa and Nanako Agatsuma. The cold sword energy made people feel cold all over, and even the ground was cut into a deep gully of dozens of meters. Nobunaga stared at them and said slowly, "Where are you looking?" "The opponent is here." Xiao Tianyi stared at Nobunaga with cold eyes. The two teammates behind him asked, "What should we do? Should we go and chase them?" Judging from the strength of those people just now, if we don't take action, they will definitely be killed. But Xiao Tianyi raised the corner of his mouth. "It doesn't matter. It's still a good thing to be able to use their lives to hold back two members of Eclipse Moon." He raised the giant sword in his hand, and the sword pointed directly at Nobunaga's head. "Our mission is to kill the members of Eclipse Moon. 3 against 1, he's dead." On the entire battlefield, with the end of the God team, the aliens from the outer city also officially left the stage. Jang E took Liang Yu and Chen and Peng to leave Jiangning Square and return to the armed helicopter to rest and wait for the results of the battle. But at this moment, Huahua's eyes flashed with a cautious light. It turned its head and looked behind it and vigilantly meowed. Soon, without its reminder, Jang E and his companions also felt the movement coming from behind. It was the sound of breaking through the air caused by high-speed movement. "Someone is chasing us," Jang E said lightly. Qin Xiaoxiao and Peng Li's faces were full of tension. At this time, they already knew how terrible the members of Eclipse Moon were. Now they have almost no ability to fight. If Eclipse Moon appears again, they can only rely on Jang E and his beast to fight. But given the relationship between them, Jang E will definitely abandon them and run away. This made Sha Sha and Peng Li very nervous. Sure enough, a moment later, Nanako Agatsuma dragged Takizawa Takashi and chased from a distance. After seeing the few people on the ground, Takizawa Takashi showed a cruel smile at the corner of his mouth. Hey, these bastards haven't gone far yet. They didn't take Jang E and his companions seriously at all. After all, they have seen the strength of Sha Sha and Peng Li. Judging from the other party's actions, Jang E, Liang Yu, and Hua are also so-called aliens from the outer city, not the elite of the God Team. Especially when the God Team appeared, they did not say a word and chose to run away in disgrace. This further confirmed the thoughts of Takashi Takizawa and Nanako Agatsuma. These people are all low-powered trash. They can kill them at will. The two of them quickly passed through the air and blocked the way of Jang E and others. Aren't you here to hunt us? Why are you running? Takashi Takizawa said arrogantly to Jang E and others. While speaking, his fingers had already clamped 6 coins. Peng Li's little face was pale, and she was still using the ability of priest to help Sha Sha heal her injuries. Don't think Sha Sha is fine now, but once she stops the treatment, Sha Sha will die in less than 10 minutes, because her internal organs are all cracked at this time. So, the two of them can't fight it. Can Jang E and the others do it? Peng Li even began to despair in her heart. Damn it, why are they chasing us? Why don't the people from the God Team stop them? Sha Sha gritted her teeth and whispered to Peng Li, if it doesn't work, I will risk my life to hold them back. Peng Li, your ability is very useful. Go help Jang E when the time comes. And then try to escape with them. Peng Li's face was full of sorrow. Although she wanted to refuse, the current situation did not allow her to be pretentious. With tears in her eyes, she had to nod and agree to Sha Sha's suggestion. Facing the 2 Eclipse Moon members who suddenly chased after her, Liang Yu silently put her hand on the hilt of Long Ming's knife. But Jang E's hand held her down. Liang Yu looked at Jang E in confusion. But she saw Jang E said indifferently, your ability is not suitable for dealing with them. Let me do it. Besides, I don't have the leisure to waste time with trash. Chapter Instant Kill. Combat Command Center. Zhu Zheng and Tu Yunlai stared at dozens of images on the big screen. Mayumi Takeuchi. At this time, the battlefields everywhere had entered a fierce battle. The aliens in the outer city left one after another, and the God Team directly faced Eclipse Moon. After the previous preparations, they also found suitable opponents for the God Team, making it easier for them to exert their abilities. At this time, Jang E's situation seemed more helpless, because they were the only alien team in the outer city who had not died in the battle and had not retreated. And their opponents were 2 members of Eclipse Moon. Tu Yunlia's face was expressionless. The death of such aliens in the outer city would not affect the overall situation on the battlefield. Zhu Zheng only glanced at it briefly and immediately shifted his attention to other places. In his opinion, there was no possibility for Jang E and his men to win. Even if 2 escaped by chance, it would not help the entire battle. But not far from them, Bailey Chongqing, who was one of the people who came up with the plan, was staring at Jang E. Only he understood that once Jang E used all his strength, there would be few people on the entire battlefield who could stop him. But, at that time, how should he explain the concealment of intelligence to Zhu Zheng and other high-level officials in Blizzard City? Bailey Chongqing was very conflicted, and he could only pray silently that the situation would not develop in a direction he didn't want to see. On the battlefield, Jang E held down Liang Yu, who wanted to take action, and walked forward slowly by himself. This scene fell into the eyes of Sha Sha and Peng Li, making them widen their eyes, almost thinking that Jang E was going to betray and surrender to the enemy. And Takashi Takizawa and Nanako Agatsuma also stared at Jang E with a playful look on their faces, the prey in their eyes. Nanako Agatsuma asked, does he want to surrender? Takizawa Takashi smiled and said, unfortunately, we only need his body. As soon as he finished speaking, Takizawa Takashi raised his hands, and a powerful lightning storm condensed around him and finally gathered on his fingertips. Only my railgun. With the addition of a powerful electromagnetic force, The 6 coins instantly penetrated the space, crossed a long silver dragon in the air, and came close to Jang E. However, the scene that Takizawa Takashi imagined, that Jang E's body was penetrated like a hot knife cutting butter, did not appear. The super electromagnetic cannon, with powerful destructive power, disappeared completely 3 meters in front of Jang E. Takizawa Takashi's pupils shrank sharply. What kind of ability is this? Why did my attack disappear? Such a scene made the Eclipse Moon couple look surprised. Nanako Agatsuma loosened her arms and frowned slightly. It seems that this guy has some tricks. Chun Xiao Xiao and Peng Li were also surprised. Is this his space abilities? Chun Xiao Xiao frowned, but it's useless to just defend. Takizawa Takashi saw that his offensive failed, and an angry look appeared on his face. He put his hands into his pockets and only heard the sound of ding ding dong dong. When he took them out, his hands were already holding 2 handfuls of coins. Let me see if you can take this attack. Takizawa Takashi laughed wildly and used his thumbs to eject the coins towards Jang E. With the power of the super electromagnetic gun, the power of each coin is countless times stronger than a bullet. In addition, it carries the power of electromagnetics, and the power is extremely strong, even penetrating the armor of the tank. One by one, the coins flew towards Jang E like a string of cannons. Jang E still stood in place, allowing Takizawa Takashi to attack him. In the air, countless arcs of electricity were like silver snakes, sinking into Jang E's space from 100 meters away, and finally disappeared without a trace, without causing any ripples. After all the coins in his hand were shot out, Takashi Takizawa was dumbfounded. The attack he was most proud of could even penetrate a chariot. Why, it had no effect on the guy in front of him. Nanako Agatsuma saw something. He absorbed all your attacks. She pointed to the ground in front of Jang E. Look, the coins disappeared. In other words, they were absorbed somewhere else. This guy is a space-based ability user. Jang E would not wait for them to finish speaking before taking action. After Takashi Takizawa's round of attack was over, he also took action. Very abruptly, Jang E took a step forward, and the whole person disappeared directly in midair. When he appeared again, he came behind Takashi Takizawa and Nanako Agatsuma. He opened his right palm, aimed at the duo, and opened his own dimensional door. The whistling lightning was like 100 silver snakes, shooting towards the backs of the two. Nanako Agatsuma's ability is Kamaitashi. She is very sensitive to air fluctuations. The moment she sensed the danger, she didn't have time to remind her man and disappeared from the spot. But Takizawa Takashi didn't have this. Such a good speed. A series of super electromagnetic cannons attacked from his back, and he didn't even have time to turn around before his body was beaten into a sieve. The power of the super electromagnetic cannon was indeed strong. When it penetrated his body, it was like a hot knife sinking into butter. A good person was beaten to pieces and riddled with holes within 0.01 seconds, just like a broken hornet's nest. Takizawa Takashi, a member of the Eclipse team, was killed instantly by Jang E. Such a scene stunned Sha Sha and Peng Li at the scene. The members of the Eclipse team, who were extremely terrified in their hearts, couldn't even take a single move from Jang E. So Jang E was so strong? The two stared at Jang E blankly, their jaws dropped in surprise. At this time, their brains were in a state of downtime, and they even lost the ability to think. But Liang Yu and Hua looked as if they were used to it. Nanako Agatsuma was very fast, and she escaped the range of Jang E's attack. When she saw her man being killed, she angrily shouted in a shrill voice, "Your Excellency!" She originally thought it was just a simple hunt, but she didn't expect that she would lose her husband's life. Nanako Agatsuma's heart was broken. But she was worthy of being a ruthless person in the Eclipse group. She looked at Jang E with hatred. The next moment, her body disappeared from the spot, and the whole figure was blurred and invisible. A turbulent storm suddenly rolled up around Jang E. Nanako Agatsuma's figure was in this storm. A strange music came from all directions. Unfortunately, Jang E couldn't hear anything. The two-world severance is a perfect barrier. It can be said that there is a barrier of another world between him and the real world at this time. So, all sounds were isolated, and all attacks contained in the melody of the shakuhachi were also absorbed by the other dimensional space. Jang E took out 2 large silver pistols with violet patterns, slowly raised them, and aimed at the nothingness in front of him. Nanako Agatsuma's speed was very fast, and ordinary people could not catch it with the naked eye. Jang E's body also underwent some changes. He was shaking slightly at a strange speed. 20 times faster. Bang! The sound of a barely perceptible gunshot rang out. The next moment, Nanako Agatsuma's body was thrown out of the wind barrier and thrown to the ground like a broken sack. Chapter 662 surprises everyone. The original domain name of Zaishibo Novel Network has been polluted. Please remember the new domain name https://www by choosew789.org. Jang E looked at Nanako Agatsuma, who was pierced on the ground indifferently. He did not save bullets and shot her chest twice more, making sure to hit her heart, and then shot her neck. The power of the White Owl was very huge, especially under the blessing of Jang E's supernatural power. It directly broke her neck, and her head rolled out. Only then did Jang E feel completely relieved. In the stunned eyes of Sha Sha and Li, Jang E walked over and put the bodies of the 2 people into the alien space. This is a battlefield. Jang E is not in a hurry to absorb their supernatural powers. Anyway, absorbing them will not improve his strength much. However, this scene was observed by the staff of the Combat Command Center. Each staff member was corresponding to the real-time monitoring of the combatants on the field. After all, there were too many people, and Zhu Zheng and Tu Yunlai couldn't keep up. They need to observe and report in time. After seeing Jang E kill 2 members of Eclipse Moon, the staff member who was monitoring his movements turned around and reported to Zhu Zheng with some surprise. "Commander, Jang E is in trouble." Zhu Zheng looked down at the staff member. He sighed and asked calmly, "Did Jang E and his men die in the battle?" "No." The staff member looked strange. If she hadn't just seen it with her own eyes, she wouldn't have believed it. Jang E killed 2 members of Eclipse Moon. Huts! As soon as these words came out, the atmosphere at the scene changed immediately. Zhu Zheng, Mon Xinqing, Tu Yunlai, Bailey Chongqing, and others looked at her. Since the war began, no battlefield has achieved effective results. Even if the Heavenly God team was dispatched, the battle situation was still stalemate. But Jang E, a mere alien from the outer city, actually killed 2 Ronin of Eclipse Moon? Zhu Zheng immediately said, "Bring up the footage from their place." The staff immediately operated and highlighted the battle situation on Jang E's side on the big screen. But at this time, the battle was over, and Jang E was only seen cleaning the battlefield and collecting their bodies. The bodies of Takashi Takizawa and Nanako Agatsuma were lying on the ground. Facts speak louder than words. Zhu Zheng's face was shocked. How did they kill these 2 people? Zhu Zheng thought that Jang E and his team relied on their advantage in numbers to surround and kill Takashi Takizawa and Nanako Agatsuma. Even so, it was enough to be proud. After all, this was the first time in this battle that a member of the Eclipse Moon was killed. The staff took a deep breath and said, "The battle ended too quickly." Jang E killed them all in less than 30 seconds. When she said this, she couldn't help but whispered, maybe the 2 Eclipse Moon members were too weak. They didn't even have the slightest resistance and were killed too easily. In the face of the absolute gap in strength, the battle ended so quickly. Zhu Zheng, Tu Yunlai, and others soon realized this. They definitely did not doubt the strength of Takizawa Takashi and Agatsuma Nanako, because in the first battle, the 2 of them easily wiped out an entire alien army. Maybe they were not as good as Okokainjin and Tsukamoto Nobunaga, but they were definitely not weak. Only Bailey Chongqing looked at Jang E in the picture with a smile in his eyes. "You guys, you always create surprises for people." "Oh, it's better to say that it's because you are too stable, so you always act like you are not powerful." At this moment, multiple alarms suddenly sounded in the Combat Command Center. "Commander-in-Chief, the situation on the northern front is not good. There are also problems on the western front. Liao Honglei is in trouble. Zhu Zheng's pupils shrank suddenly. How could this happen? Where is Deng Shentong? Tu Yunlai said. He went out alone to directly destroy the opponent's main formation. I think there is nothing wrong with doing this. If the opponent's team leader is killed, Eclipse Moon will become a mess. Zhu Zheng's face was gloomy. Even if the mission is completed, if the Tianshan team suffers too much loss, we cannot accept it. Unfortunately, the Black Robe team suffered heavy losses in the last battle of Tianhai City and has not yet recovered. The other 4 investigation teams are all performing tasks outside and have not returned yet. The Tianshan team has to take over. When Zhu Zheng thought of this, his eyes suddenly looked at Jang E in the picture. Zhu Zheng's eyes suddenly lit up. Isn't this the best helper? Zhu Zheng immediately contacted Jang E and gave him instructions. Jang E, don't retreat for now. Go to the nearest northern front to provide support immediately. Others can come back first. Jang E said calmly, okay. In the communication channel, he knew that the battle situation on the other 2 fronts was not ideal. Now that the main force of the Tianshan team has been dispatched, it is reasonable for him to go and help. How should I put it? He will not take the initiative to ask for a fight, but if there is an arrangement from above, he will do it as long as it is not a too dangerous task. It is a relatively flat state. Anyway, with his ability, he can go alone. If they go, there will be no problem in saving their lives. So Jang E said to Liang Yu, take them back first. I'm going to the rear front. Liang Yu knew that after Jang E exposed his strength, he was targeted by the senior people. There is no way. The more capable people do more work. This phenomenon is too common. Even in the company, the leaders always like to grab capable employees and let them do more work. Do you want me to go with you? They should be able to leave by themselves. Liang Yu said. Jang E shook his head. Your current strength is not enough. Liang Yu's personal combat quality is very high. But in terms of supernatural power level, she is far behind. Although she is a Delta-level alien, she has absorbed too little alien essence. She can still fight against ordinary leaders of forces. But compared with the vicious thugs like Eclipse Moon, it's hard to say. Jang E thinks that he may have to think of some ways to help her improve her strength as soon as possible in the future. In this way, she can become his right-hand man. At least she can give some help when Jang E fights. Liang Yu was a little unhappy with Jang E's attitude, and her lips curled up. As a master of Chinese martial arts, what she couldn't accept the most was that others said she was weak. Jang E couldn't help but laugh when he saw this. Even Liang Yu, who seemed indifferent at ordinary times, had this lovely side. Okay, now is not the time to play around. Be obedient, okay? This gentle tone made Liang Yu blush. I'll listen to you. She pretended to be indifferent, but secretly clenched her fists. Jang E left the others and walked towards the western front marked on the nebula. Liang Yu looked at his back and had no choice but to walk over and take Huahua, Sha Sha, and Peng Li back to the armed helicopter to wait. Chapter 663 King Meets King. When Takizawa Takashi and Agatsuma Nanako died, the person in charge of communication, Shishimonobu Satoru, felt it. He looked up in surprise, his eyes surging with disbelief. Seeing him like this, Huinjin asked, Shishimono, what happened? Shishimonobu Satoru looked up at Huinjin and murmured, Takizawa and my wife died in the battles. Huinjin's pupils shrank suddenly. Even Takeuchi Mayumi, who had been kneeling on the ground and fortune-telling for everyone, screamed. Impossible. This is absolutely impossible. She lay on the ground, holding the Takeuchi scroll tightly with both hands. The scroll that was materialized by the supernatural power was twisted into a little deformation by her. Her eyes were blank, and she said in panic, my fortune-telling can't go wrong. Today, the fortunes of both of them are good. How could something go wrong? Shishimonobu Satoru said, it may be because of the strange person who appeared on Nobunaga's side. This sentence reminded Huinjin and Takeuchi Mayumi. Remember, long ago, a strange person appeared there, causing problems with Mayumi Takeuchi's divination. Fengguang said coldly, could it be that someone can block Mayumi's divination? Shishimonobu Satoru calmed down, and he carefully analyzed. Takizawa and my wife both died in that place. In other words, can the existence of that person distort Miss Takeuchi's divination? Doesn't that mean it's a distortion of the law of cause and effect? Mayumi Takeuchi's ability, Takeuchi Picture Scroll, can predict and divination people to determine good and bad luck. Since the establishment of the Eclipse Group, her predictions have never been wrong. This ability to predict the future is also called a causal weapon. It can be said that its existence is one of the biggest trump cards of the Eclipse Group. And now, the prediction of Takeuchi Picture Scroll has actually deviated. Fengguandyuan Ren and Shishimanobu Satoru both understood that it was not that Mayumi Takeuchi's prediction failed. Instead, someone distorted the results of her prediction. Mayumi Takeuchi covered her head and said painfully, "There is someone who is beyond fate. I can't see his future, let alone predict everything about him." Fengguandyuan Ren walked to her side, slowly hugged her, smiled, and comforted her softly. "It's okay, Mayumi. You've done a great job. As for that guy, just kill him. And I will definitely kill him for you." Mayumi Takeuchi slowly raised her head and looked at Fengguandyuan Ren with weak and worried eyes. "But if that happens, some of our companions may die. Because my predictions about them are invalid, I can't see their future clearly." Fengguandyuan Ren smiled. "This is a war. No matter what kind of accidents happen, it is our own choice. And so far, the direction of things is still under our control." He stroked Mayumi Takeuchi's head. "Sometimes, you don't have to put such a big burden on yourself. I'm still here." In the past, they did rely too much on Mayumi Takeuchi's ability. But before they got Mayumi Takeuchi, they were also extremely powerful aliens. If you can't see through fate, just kill them. A stern fighting spirit burst out from the eyes of Fengguandyuan Jin. Perhaps the journey was too smooth so that he was a little bored. But this time, the situation finally developed differently. "This is exciting, isn't it?" Mayumi Takeuchi suddenly thought of something, and she hurriedly said to Shishimanobu Satoru, "Call Hanakyo back." Because today's prophecy book said that Naru's Hanakyo's fortune was bad. That's why Fengguandyuan Jin didn't send her out to perform the mission, but stayed in the vicinity of the main camp to be responsible for vigilance. According to common sense, if the enemy does not break through the outer team members, it is impossible to kill to the vicinity of the main camp. Shishimanobu Satoru closed his eyes and was about to contact Naru's Hanakyo. But at this time, a cold and lazy voice came from not far away. "Are you looking for her?" The sudden voice startled the three people of Eclipse Moon. They were so close to them, but they were not discovered. And where is Naru's Hanakyo, who was responsible for vigilance? Why didn't she warn Fengguandyuan and the others? A tall man slowly walked out from the weapons. He had long flowing silver hair and was as handsome as a woman. But he was holding a half-dead woman in his right hand, which made people feel a little sad. "Hanakyo." When she saw the woman in his hand, Mayumi Takeuchi couldn't help but shout. Wasn't the one in the man's hand the ninja in their group, Naru's Hanakyo? Fengguandyuan's eyes froze. Although Naru's Hanakyo's strength was not first-rate in the entire Eclipse Moon, as a ninja, her skills in reconnaissance and escape were very powerful. But she didn't even have time to sound the alarm and was killed by the man in front of her. It was enough to see how strong the opponent was. Captain of the God Team, Deng Shintong? It was none other than Deng Shintong. When Deng Shintong heard the man in front of him say his name, he smiled. "Oh, even you Japanese wanderers have heard of my name? It seems that you are not so uncivilized. Much better than the guys in a small seaside town." All attention was focused on this side of the combat command center. Zhu Zheng commanded seriously. "Enlarge the picture of Deng Shintong. Enlarge it to the maximum." Everyone understood that this battle between the captain and the team leader was the highlight of this battle. As long as the opponent's general can be killed, the battle will be completely over. If Deng Shintong loses, the operation in Blizzard City will also be declared a complete failure. And if Fengguandyuan Ren loses, Eclipse Moon will also be defeated and become a pile of loose sand. The result of the battle here will also affect other battles on the battlefield. The defeat of the general directly affects the mentality and morale of all the aliens. Deng Shintong threw Naru's Hanakyo on the ground with a smile on his face. It seems that I am lucky. There are actually 4 people from Eclipse Moon here. If I kill you, this farce should be declared over, right? But who is the general commander among you? Deng Shintong's eyes swept over Feng Guangyuan and the other 3, and finally, he waved his hand indifferently. It doesn't matter. Anyway, they're all going to die, just kill them all. Feng Guangyuan lowered his head, and his body suddenly trembled. Deng Shintong looked at him in surprise. Are you so scared? Feng Guangyuan's body trembled more and more. He suddenly raised his head and laughed loudly. And in his eyes, there was a crazy excitement. The captain of the God Squad is the highest level of combat power in the Jiangnan district. If I kill you here, those idiots in the Jiangnan district will not bother me anymore. Feng Guangyuan stared at Deng Shintong. Today, you will die here. 40 Manoba Satoru stopped his enlightenment demon ability. Feng Guangyuan didn't need to say much. He had already quickly ran over and helped Takeuchi Mayumi up. They were not combat-type aliens, so they were not qualified to participate in this captain versus team leader battle. With the strength of these 2 people, even if there was a slight aftershock, they would be able to kill them instantly. This episode ends here. We'll post more. Please subscribe to motivate me, dear viewers. Thanks.